so that the I don't have to do that startup. So now you should be able to share anytime. I think apparently got it to stick. There we go.
Okay, before we look at the main subject of today's session, let me ask you a question about this.
Okay.
One of the last time you did a location and set, you did a you put a hatch around this in the site, and I like that, and I tried to do it on this one. And let me show you what happens. You can explain to me what I'm doing wrong.
All right.
Do a standard hatch. Okay, and that was set. I just assumed that that's the way it was. When you did it, it was left on the same one. I don't know that. That was just my assumption, but I clicked on select entities.
Mm-hmm.
I collected that, and then hit enter.
All right.
And
Okay. So that's because if you were to zoom in really close.
but hold on for just a second. My daughter's calling me.
Okay, sure.
She hung up. Okay.
All right. So if you zoom in really close, you'll see that that pattern is there, but it's just real close together. You may not be able to even zoom close enough to it.
Okay.
All right. So now just if you'll double click it, and now look at where it says scale 1, change like about midway down on the left. That's
okay.
Yeah, pick it up to something. Try 100. And then we'll just find one that appeals. All right, now hit OK, and then it should, yeah, see, that's getting better. So maybe you want to try 200 or, you know, something. All right, and then, you know, if that's good enough, or if you want it even, you know, like 250, 300, something like that, you can try different ones and see what you like the best.
Well, I'll leave it at that for now. That looks pretty good.
All right.
Let's look at this other drawing styles. I had talked to you about this one before. We had spent a little bit of time on it. This is one I converted from Terra Model.
Uh-huh.
And I almost thought I'd be better off if I had just imported the points and drew it from scratch. I found it so intimidating, but I've done some things with it, and maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Like, for example, everything's on the same layer.
Right.
Well, this isn't. Yeah, okay, this is on boundary plat.
Okay.
I went through and changed some of them. Like this one I put on a joiner. I went through and put all the joiners on a joiner label. But I just started relabeling stuff like this. I relabeled this as
no. There you go.
I relabeled those as setback limits.
Uh-huh.
I relabeled, oh, this turned out weird. Wait a minute, let me, okay. Yeah, and I relabeled this as floodplain. I relabeled this as stream.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I can just do that, go through and relabel. I mean, but one of the things is you see where the you see that this the whole drawing is what do you call those things again?
Well, I don't know what you're trying to show me here. The
Viewport.
The viewport.
The whole drawing is in a viewport.
Well, yeah. So your viewport is sticking way out there, right? I see. So you can, and that's okay, as long as there's nothing outside, as long as there's nothing drawn inside that, between that viewport boundary and say that black line that is, and I'm guessing that black line was part of the import.
Yeah, well, it's hard to put, I mean, all of this stuff is on, is in
It's in model space, right?
model space.
Yeah, because that, in fact, let's take a look at, let me,
This is in paper space because I copied it from another drawing and then
Right.
changed it.
okay, well, let me show you how real quick you can switch those back and forth. I'm gonna go ahead and request remote. Okay, now. If we take a look over here at model space, let's take a look at some things.
Oh, that was one thing I did. I don't remember why that was like that, but
Why when it zooms out, it goes way out there? That's
well, no, I know what I did. I copied something from another plat and I meant to copy it to paper space and I copied it to model space instead. And so it ended up being really tiny in model space. And so I was zooming in to see it, and I ended up deleting it, but I never zoomed back.
Oh, okay. Well, even at that though, if I zoom extents, see, it's still, there's still something out here. Right there, there's a single point that gets placed at 0, 0. So we
Okay.
won't need that. Now, if I zoom extents. Well, it should.
Still must be something.
Zoom extents. Yeah, my mouse wheel wasn't responding. There we go. Now,
Okay.
okay, so we got a couple of,
Those are septic reserve areas.
oh, okay.
Well, they're not reserve, they're just pits. I've got to create reserve areas around them.
Okay. I also noticed your fence line still has that like hashtag or number
Yeah.
symbol.
Yeah.
So we'll fix that as well. But now, so what I would suggest, since this, all of these frames and stuff like this were done to, show us in the other draw in the paper space, that was the original frame. So if we want that in paper space, there's two ways of doing this. Like you can either have something in paper space, let's say this stuff here, that's in paper space. And if you want that in model space, you can do it that way, or you can take something from model space and put it into paper space. So there's a command called change space, CHSPACE. And I don't have any idea if it's on, I haven't seen it anywhere on any of these menus. For instance, let me see here, change. No, it should be on.
Yeah, I looked, I knew there was something like that and I looked and looked
Yeah.
and could not find it.
So if we, let me see if there is. I'm going to look at the Carlson manual. The Carlson help system. And I'm going to search for CHSPACE. And see no help topics found. So they don't give that to you as a tool anywhere on a toolbar or one of their menus. So it is strictly an IntelliCAD thing or AutoCAD if you're using AutoCAD. And you just have to know to type CH space, change space. Now, when you're in model space, in fact, you can do it from either from here or the other, like if I'm inside the viewport. And now if I want to type CH space, You got two things you can do here. You can either copy it from model space into paper space, or you can move it. Typically, we want to move it. So if we say move, then it says select the entity to move. So we're going to change, say, take that and that. Do you want this one also?
Yeah.
All right, so those things that are in, looks like your scale is also in paper space or model space.
It is. Everything is in model space except for what I've today
Okay,
put on paper space.
I got you. All right, so we'll take that and then we'll take this. Might as well get this one too while we're at it. All right, so let's say those things that we've selected. So we're through selecting that. Now we hit enter. And it says set the target viewpoint active and press enter to continue. So we've already set it active, so we pressed enter. Now, it tells us that these objects were scaled by a factor of 0.003333 to maintain visual appearance, which is, we're at what, 100 scale or
300 scale.
300 scale rather, yeah. All right, so, and there you can see this is, say this block, and I'm going to double click that bar scale and show you how these things that are supposed to look like solid squares are done by having a bunch of lines all drawn together. So there's a couple of, and that was done back in the days when they didn't have solid commands.
Mm-hmm.
So to fix that one real quick, so you don't have little streaks in the stuff, it's pretty simple to do. There's a solid command. If I take solid, and what you do is you simply you pick on corners. Now I'm going to leave these lines in place. So there's that first corner, the second corner, and then I'll grab that third corner, and then the fourth corner. So there's now that solid, now finish. I'll hit enter again, and then I could go from that one to that one. And you got to be careful with those because sometimes you can make bow ties out of them if you want. Now, I look at this and I see that, well, this one's obviously taller than that one, okay, because these lines didn't go down to where they actually met in the middle. So let's see what we can do.
There's another way to do it. You could just copy, redo the bar scale.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, you can do that. Now, this one is, if we close this, and this is, you have to look around for this little thing. If we close the block editor, let's go ahead and just change that. Now let's look, see what the name of this is. Oops. The name is called.
Everything is called boundary plat unless you put it on another layer.
That's a layer, but this block
Okay.
reference, and it's just those three, it's just those things there. That's the block, and it's on a block called hatch 000. So
Yeah.
actually a quicker way of doing that is let's just clear that out. And now you could do your solid because you have the lines that are equal here. So you just go from here to here, here to here. And then, whoops, get out of that. Where am I here? All right, so we've got that one. Let me try to grab the edge of it. All right, so if I grab that solid, let's put it in the back, and now we'll grab that again, solid, And because that one's going to be just like that one, I'm going to just simply copy it from this corner down to this corner. And I would do another solid here to here, here to here. And then I could copy the other one down. I'll show you that thing. If you get sometimes you can make them and see how it makes like a bow tie, because I went
Yeah.
around it.
Yeah.
You want to make sure when you do these, and these don't have to be square. You see, they can be any kind of shape that you want. You see, like that would have been a triangle. I could go to the midpoint, you know, I could put all kinds of different shapes on there. But then, yeah, and so you have to sort of always do them, say left to right, left to right, left to right, or you know, right to left, that sort of thing. You have to be careful of crossings. So anyway, once you're done with those, and then just hit enter. I'm going to select now that solid. I'll select similar, put them in. Not that that's really going to matter, because we probably will have these all just print black. Now there's a, so they are right now, let's change their color to be by layer, and let's change their layer to be, did we have one called bar?
We do, yeah.
Right there. All right, so that took care of that kind of thing. And so we have now all of these things are, I'm going to select that one. I'm going to say select similar, and you should see that, you know, it's grabbed all of that line work, and it's on this layer called boundary plat.
Yeah.
Well, let's change the color first of all back to by layer, and then we'll change from boundary plat. There should be like a title block line work. There we go. And then you could make this one say a little bit heavier. Let's make that say, let's see how that looks. Yeah, see how that's a, well, let's see here. Let's make that one. So that's a little bit thicker than, say, these other ones in here. All right, so that real quickly takes it from there. Now you can do the same thing. Like if you wanted to take these, and they're in paper space now, and you could move those to model space. You just type CH space, select this, and then it goes to the other direction, because you're in model space now. It's going to go to, I mean, you're in paper space now. So you select these, and then it's going to move those into model space. And here's a reason I'm telling you that is that, let's say you get things set up like you'd like them. And let's say I wanted to put, you know, let's say I have a, let me just draw a, I'll sit on this layer so you can see the color. And let's say if I just drew a polyline, and it went something like, and let's say then we close it. All right, so if that were like this shape polyline, we can make that a viewport, so that then all of this stuff out here, even if it's in model space, you wouldn't see it. But one thing that you might want to do with that is, because you wanted to make sure that you're not over in model space working and you put stuff that's not within where your boundary is going to be on your sheet. So if you did a change space, And this time we would just copy it, for instance, and we would select this, hit enter, set the target viewport active, and set enter. So now we, again, we're in model space. We hit enter. If we go back to model space, we're going to see well, should have. Oh, no, that's interesting. Hmm. Well, that definitely should have come right in there, just like it was in paper space. We are at a 300 over there. I wonder if that's, and we're 300 here.
How come if you deleted it in model space, it isn't deleted over here?
Because I drew it over here and I said, when I did change space, I told it to copy instead of move. So now it's, so there now are two of them. Yeah, there it is. I selected the wrong one. So that's, all right. So there's the subtle distinction. Let me show you what that is. And I'll erase this one here. And if I'm in model space, and let's say change space, oops. Change space. Oh, you can't use it in the model tab. All right, so you have to be on the paper space or on a layout tab. Now, if you are in a particular model space viewport, like here, I'm in a viewport.
Right.
I can take, if I say change space, change space, and if I can see, so there's my options, copy or move. So if I say move, that's when it takes it out of one space and puts it in the other space and erases the original. If I say copy, it leaves them. That's why you were left with both of those. So, so let's say copy, and I'm going to copy this boundary line right there. Okay. So that's the one. And now it says, okay, so that was selected, one object copied from model space to paper space, scale by a factor. All right, so now here, well, now see, I'm in paper space. If I select this here, that is in paper space. It's also, because I copied, see, it's still here.
Mhm.
Okay, now, that was when I was in a viewport when I gave the command. I told that so it knows when it's changing space, it's coming to paper space. So it did not prompt me to move or to select an active viewport. Now, if, however, I want to take something in paper space, like say that, and I'll change space that, again, I'll copy, and I'm going to just select that. Now hit enter. Now it asks me to set the target viewport active. So if I have multiple viewports, and in your case, you've only got one, so whichever one you choose, and that's why when I picked that the first time and I put it in the wrong spot, it shifted it way out to the side. Now it works because I now have to double click inside the viewport that's making it active, and then I hit enter. Okay. So now when I go over here, you see it copied that right in there.
Mhm.
But of course, I don't want that in there, of course. Now, This is a 2D poly. Okay, they're both there. So apparently that was just a double on this one. But so sometimes you want to keep them in both places so you can still see them. But one of the reasons,
How come it's not letting you delete that?
I'm getting ready to find out. Oh, there must have been, maybe there were 2 or 3
Multiple
of them.
lines.
Yeah. All right. So one of the reasons you might want to copy something like that, let's say you had this as the viewport, but you're going to still do work in model space and you don't want to, put anything outside of those boundaries, but you don't know where that is in model space exactly. Maybe you're rotated or whatever. So if you simply select the item, set the target viewport active. So I'll double click that and press enter. So now when I go back here to model space, now I know, like, oh, okay, I see that's going to be outside of that. I would then just slide that, make sure it stays within this line. And then when you're done with all that, you can just erase this one out of your model space. Okay.
Okay.
So that's, you know, if we ever do that, but you've got a nice rectangular viewport here, and it's out here on these edges. So you could now, if you want, so you can reshape that, like, see how it clipped that off right there?
Yeah.
And if we did it up, you know, a little higher like that, it's going to keep clipping. And it also clips this because, again, that's in model space. So really where you want to make, you know, make sure that you're, and I'll bring this in a little bit so you can always tell where that is.
Okay.
Now it happens to be exactly over top of, there's a polyline there too, that black polyline. That's the frame of the drawing. All right. So
Right.
what else do we?
So I'm going to have to end up making this plat into 3 pages. This first page is going to be the way the boundaries are, and the second page are going to be the proposed mergers, and then the third page is going to be after the mergers. And I think the way I want to do it is just do a save as and create a different DWG for each page, sharing the same CRD file. Is that okay?
That would work. Yeah, you don't have to do it that way, but that would certainly work just fine. Are they going to be the same scale and everything, or?
Yes.
Okay. So the other thing is you can do is just simply copy, you know, this to 2 more layouts. Let's see. Well, we'll leave that stuff over there as well. But so this one's called merger plat. And if I just right click and say copy, and we had one called what?
Well, actually, we should change the name of merger plat and call it existing,
Okay,
and then call the next one merger plat.
there you go. All right, so I'm gonna let you do that. So this will be, let's call it existing properties. And then if you copy, we're going to call this one merger plat. And then this one, we'll copy that again and call that one consolidation plat, or whatever they are. Okay. And so right now, see, they're exactly identical. Oops, I don't know. Trying to rename them here. So there's merger plat, consolidation plat. Okay. So what you could do with each of these then is, if on the merger plat, then you would be showing different conditions. Now, when I say that, this is the way you could do it, there's a trade-off here. I think your approach is going to be easier for you to just make 3 different drawings. Okay. And the trade-off here is that I have to make sure I set up the line work. Let's say I need all these lines to show up here and to be the same, whatever they are. But maybe I need to get rid of a couple of lines in here because I'm merging 2 lots together.
Right.
Well, I need to make sure that that all of that line work is on a separate layer, and that this little line in here that goes away is on a separate layer than, say, this outside line, so that when I'm in this viewport on this layout tab, I can freeze that layer, but not have it frozen when I'm on this layout tab or on this layout tab. So
Right.
you have to sort of triple up your line works and layers. And
Yeah, that's why I thought about that, and that's why I thought it might be easier just to do a save as and create 3 separate DWGs. Then I don't have to worry about that.
That's exactly right, and that's why I'm thinking that that's going to be probably your better approach, just in terms of not losing your sanity and keeping track of it. The only thing now that you have to keep track of, just make sure you're in the right drawing that you want to be in. But
Right.
that, I think, is easier to keep track of.
Yeah.
Right? So that would be my recommendation there.
Okay. I'll do it that way.
All righty. Now, let me take a look back here for a second. I wanted to talk about this a minute. This hatch right now, you see that word site and it looks sort of lost in there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that hatch, I noticed when we did it in model space because that element was in model space. That is correct way to do that, but I'm going to select that hatch. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to change its color and line weight so that it goes, it sort of fades to the background. So there's going to make it gray. And I'm going to change its line weight to be, relatively skinny here. And then I'm also going to send it to the back. Oh, that was a little too gray, wasn't it? Oh, actually, I don't need to send it to the back. I just need to go, let's see. When I sent it to the back, it went behind that image also. So I'm going to, I think it'll be easier just to do this. And I select the image. It's going to be hard to do from here. Let me switch to here. There we go. Now I'll select the image and send it to the back. So now when I come back to my paper model, it shows up like that.
Yeah, that's good.
So, and you can look at that on your PDF and see if it's, is it too skinny lines or is it too gray? Make it a little, a slightly darker one of those grays. Those colors, when I chose that color 253 in the print table, the color table that we're using, all of the colors are going to print black except for 241, which prints red. That's the color that your viewports are.
Yeah.
And I've kept all of these gray shades from 250, 51, 52, 53, 54. Those all print those shades of gray.
Okay.
And 255 is a special color number. That means it's going to print the color of the whatever the current background is. So the background of a paper space is, um, you know, if I were to do that, it would match that and it would be white. But if I had that same thing with that same color over in model space, it would be black.
Okay.
So just, you know, keep that part in mind. But so you would change, I think, yeah, I did. Yeah, I changed that to 255. So that's a white color. I didn't want to be like that. So if I had it like 252, then that might be, you know, but take a look at that on your PDF, you know, make sure it looks reasonable to you.
Okay.
And I think it'll be fine. Okay.
Sounds good.
And then now you remember what we did on this scale bit, how we determined what scale to type this as.
No, I don't.
All right. So
I got that by looking at the scale that by clicking on the red line there, whatever you call that,
the
viewport.
yeah.
And
Yeah, that's exactly right. When it says it's 1-to-1, but it's a custom, the standard scale says custom.
yeah,
And
so
then,
I unlocked it and looked at it to see what it was.
well, you don't even need to do that. If we do, like right now, your units are set to 2. So if I run this up to say 6, and now if I just select it and look at its properties, look over here, see that custom scale right there?
Yeah.
0.01276. So you can figure out what that ratio is. And that would be, let's see, 0.001276. What does that mean? Let's see, that is, if I'm at 1 inch. Let's see something here. All right, this is a polyline. Where's, oh, over here is what I was looking for, the viewport. So that viewport is at 1 inch equals 50, so 0.02. So 1 inch equals 50. So that would be what, 100 0.02 divided. Oh, let's see, what is it? 0.02. Yeah, okay, reciprocal. All right, that's what I'm looking for. So now if I selected this one and I saw that it is 0.001276, so 0.001276, and I look at that reciprocal, or 1 divided by that number. That number is 783.7. So this number here is actually should be closer to 750 or maybe 800.
Okay.
All right. So in fact, I would say I would make it 800. I wouldn't try to.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. That nobody's ever going to use it anyway. Probably.
Correct. But I would at least, you know.
Yeah, should be in the ballpark.
What is it trying to see here now? I'm escaped. There we go. Yeah, so I would just, you know, keep it as nominal as you could. So yeah, just whatever that is. And that's exactly the approach. You had the approach right. You looked at the viewport, but you don't even have to unlock it. You just need to select it and look at its properties. Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll let you go to the next issue. We do need to get those on styles. We need to fix that fence line, by the way.
Okay, well, why don't we, let me save this.
All right.
And then go back to styles. And why don't we do that?
Okie doke. So select it first of all, and let's take a look at what it says it is.
Oh, wait a minute.
You can, yeah, as long as you're in the viewport now. So you selected that line, and it is a line, and that's okay. I prefer polylines when I can.
I don't
But
like it on the boundary plat.
All
If
right.
you have a fence line. Don't have a fence line.
All right, so we would need to make one. So go ahead and do that
Okay.
part. Okay. And now, yes, exactly right. And you're going to set that to be a particular fence line. And there's the one that is part of this drawing called fence X line. Now, if we choose that, you're going to see that that's going to be that same thing with that hashtag in it,
Okay.
because that line type was created and defined with that character being a particular letter out of an alphabet that we no longer have that font active to us. So for now, just pick gas line just so we can see. You know, we'll come back and change it. I'll show you what we're going to do. So if we go now back and go ahead and, yeah, and close that off, and then select that line and change its yeah, get the gray. Is it the gray one? No, that one. There you go. So we're going to change its layer. Might as well change. I mean, you could change its color to be fence line or to be by layer if you wanted, but right now that's colored table makes it plot black, so we're fine. So now, yeah, so by layer, and now if we press escape and look at it, you see it looks like a gas line, which is what we told it to be. But now we need the fence line instead of a gas line, but we don't really have that. If you go back to your layer control and go down and find that fence, and now change that from gas back to that fence X line, and then say that, and close that, or just move it out of the way, either one. And you see it put it right back where it was. So we know that that line type is incorrectly defined. So we need the correct one. And there's several ways of doing that. We can go through, try to find other drawings that have that fence line that we like, and use that one and copy that into this drawing. That's the easiest if you know for sure where one might be.
Well, let me think about that. Let's see.
Because even your music, even if you haven't drawn any fences, you might have the fence line defined, the line style defined. So if you look at, and a real quick way to test that is to just draw a, yeah, no, that one is what, let's see, let's open this up here a little bit. See, that's this fence B 075008035. That's those numbers are what got added to that fence line type when we created that line style. Okay, so that one might well work. We could try that and see.
Should I just draw a little fence line on this?
Yes, that would be what I would suggest. So close this off for a second. Yeah, there you go. You're on that, and you want to just draw a little polyline and paper space there and just see what it looks like. And make sure you're on the current drawing. Yep, you are, and say okay. And just, yeah, so now, yep, that looks like a good fence line, don't you think?
Yeah.
All right, so we erase that. And now, do you remember how to move the line types between drawings?
Let me see if I do.
All right.
No, I don't.
Wait, no, you're no, go right, stay right where you are. And but you're thinking very closely where you need to be thinking, because you're in this tool. Remember, it does more than just layers. It does all of those things in the left-hand column.
Okay, I got you.
Yep,
So I go line types up here.
yep. Now, sometimes, and because you switched drawings, it opened this up while this was open, but sometimes you'll see this look like this.
Yeah,
So just pay attention to that plus sign and open it
Okay.
up. So now I'll let you go ahead and,
I'll open up line types here too.
well, you don't, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
you go to the one that you want. There you go. And it's, and those are actually, you see the relative scale sizes between the two.
yeah,
I would select both of them actually, just in case you need to try it. Yep,
and just drag it to the line type below.
exactly right. Okay,
So it should be there.
yep. And it may put it down the,
Yep, there
there
it
they
is.
are. Okay, so
What is this layer, this line type by layer?
that is, and the check mark beside it means that's the current line type. And line type by layer means when you draw a line on that
Okay,
layer.
okay,
Yeah,
I got you. I
yeah,
see where we are now.
yeah.
Okay, okay, so I close out of this
Yeah,
and then I go back
now,
to styles.
yeah.
And
So
then I
now,
click on this.
well, that one we did change to be by layer, but we need to now change the layer.
Oh, we're in the viewport
Well,
there.
yeah, I would go, well, you can still do it here, even when you're in the viewport, but go back to your layer manager now. Remember, we haven't changed what the layer says it is, because we changed it to gas and then we changed it back to that other thing. And so now if we select that layer, now here's two places. You see, because you're in a viewport, you now not only have this right here in this column, which is the global line type, and that's the one we want, but you can also change the viewport line type. So let's change it here so that all viewports that we use will use the same. Yeah, there you go. We'll use the same one. Now you can try, I would try the second one. It looked a little further spaced. And now we select that and choose it, and we'll take a look at it and see, and we might have to change the line scale. So let's go ahead now and close that off and take a look at the fence and see what it looks like. And that looks actually pretty good. Now,
Surprises me that they have this fence broken up into little tiny sections. It's not,
okay, so we can join that all in together, or you might notice that, see, when we selected this here, we said change that, but you see it's a line and it only goes from here to here. But there's all of those different ones that go around. Now we could select, what is that? Oh, that's somebody made, those are all text letter X's.
somebody just drew them on the fence line.
Yeah, all right. So this, well, now here's something else. I won't waste your time on it today, but you need to fix this stuff,
Yeah.
which you know how to do all that. But so let's go over here for a minute. We'll come back to model space and let's fix this so that we can manage that stuff a little better. So we had this layer that was now is on fence. So we had that other layer, and that was on what? Oh, boundary plat art. So we don't want to just We don't want to isolate that layer. We want to isolate these items. So if we find all of the fence lines, let's see, if I select that one layer, now you're not seeing that that point number, that hashtag looking there, because let's see. There it is. I just had to regen it. All right. So if we select that one line, and let's right click and choose select similar, and let's see if we can, yeah, I was afraid of it's going to also get all of the boundary layers. So if we,
Almost gonna have to go
well,
piece by piece,
yeah,
I'm afraid.
yeah, sort of. But there's a quick way of doing this. If we want to select or rather isolate layers, we've already changed this one. So let's get that one. And then let's also get this one. And we see, okay, there's that. And it cleared out most of the stuff, but it still left all these other things. Now, you could, now that you've cleared out enough, you can do another thing. Instead of isolating layers, you can isolate objects. And it's this set of tools right up here on this part of the toolbar, or just like you had it under, you've got all these, there's your isolate layers. You've also got on the view menu this show hide. And so we can isolate by selection. And so if we do that, let's go through and click each one of these. And there's where you do have to go and select them, but we're going to select them, all the way around. Now we may have to go back and do it a couple of times if we miss any, but like you probably know where all your fences are. And there's one there. And that's probably a fence in here too, right?
Yeah,
What is that? Take a look at that. I don't know that that is a fence line, but we'll look and see. All right, so we got that. We've got, and I'm going to also select these X's so that I can deal with them. I can then select them later and erase them. While I've got them isolated, it'll be easier. So I'm going to isolate. And this is where it's just a pain in the tuchus, because somebody, when they did the original plat, well, the drawing looked okay, but you can see what a pain it is to try to manage it the way it should have been done. So we're going to fix that here so that you can have that convenience later on
right.
if you ever need it. So, and again, the thing is, if that's something that's just part of the picture and it's never going to change and it's just inconsequential, you might not want to necessarily bother with setting to bother with making all those changes. Depends on how much time and budget you've got, that sort of stuff. All right, so I think I've got everything selected. I'm all the way around. Were there any other fences on the interior?
No,
All right, and what about up in here?
no, I don't think so.
Is that a fence line or is that a tree line?
Uh, hmm,
Well, we can do the same thing. We'll check it against the original and see. Now there's a fence. Yeah, see, it looks like somebody tried to. Yeah, it looked like somebody had tried to change that at one point, but they never got rid of that other line type. So we got the X's. We got the lines. Let's get these. We got the question mark there. Question mark and the X there. Question mark there. All right, so the question marks are all part of a single line. It's just not defined correctly. So those are all now selected, and I'm through selecting, and I hit enter. And now everything goes away except for that. And you see, well, there's apparently some missing pieces in there as well. So, we're going to go ahead and fix this stuff first. And then we'll go back and I'll show you, we stitch those together. So I'm going to select these X's, these texts, and I'm going to select similar. And right now they've just selected the text elements. It tells me down here, my notification manager, that there's too many of them to show all those, to show the grips and all that. So, but I've got them selected. I know it's the only text I've got showing because I've isolated, and I'm going to hit delete. So you see they all went away. These question marks are part of that line style. These hashtags are part of that line style. So now we're going to select, first of all, we're going to select all of those. There are lines, there's polylines. Oh, there's even a block reference. What that one is. It's called, oh, there's a block reference in there. It's a hatch 0112. If I can find that real quick. If I select, there's 8 blocks showing. Let's try that. I don't want that block reference. All right, so I've selected all this stuff, and I look up here and I see I've got a block reference. I don't want that in my selection set. So I'm going to right click and choose quick select. And I'm going to apply this to my current selection. And the entity type is a block reference. And I can set these particular things if I knew the name of it, if I knew all of the color of the layer, but I'm just going to pull this guy down and say select all. So select all blocks in the current selection. And what I want to do to it, I want to exclude that from a new selection set. So I'm going to say okay. And so now my count has gone down to 24, and I pull this down and I see I've only got polylines and lines. That's what I wanted. Okay, so now I've got all of that. I'm going to set their color to be by layer. their layer to be fence. If I can get to it, type the letter F, there's fence. The line type to also be by layer. Oh, yeah, up here at the top now. And I can press escape. Now, if I zoom in here and I look around, I see, okay, that looks good for the ones that it's selected. Over here's this one. Now, remember, this was a polyline. So it's defined all the way along its length. These were lines, individual lines. So that's why they're defined like that. Now, this, again, is a series of individual lines. So we want to connect those together. So we're going to do a join nearest. And we're going to say, just directly connect the endpoints. All that should be good. And should just be able to grab everything and say, oh, oops. It's not exactly what I wanted. Let's undo that. Here, join. Maybe I have to select them here instead of. Apparently, when you isolate objects, they don't freeze the entities; they only turn them off. So that's why those other things turn themselves back on. All right, so now I've selected those, and now that's a nice fence line. All right, so now we got to take care of these gaps. So we're going to remember we're isolated with entities.
Right.
Up here now you can, we said isolate by selection, but we're going to say show all now. If we choose that, it's going to turn back on what we had before we isolated. And remember, we did an isolate layer. So these are only that layer. Boundary plat was the original. We isolated those other objects and then turned them, isolated them. So let's take a look down here. We have this fence line that comes into this point here, and then we had this line. And I'm not sure what that is.
Almost have to look at the paper.
Go back to the original and look and see. It might be a driveway edge or something, okay? And then there's something in here. Oh, okay, so here's this fence. And here's this fence. That's what I was originally trying to find to see if we had missed something, but it looks like they're just, a fence goes to here and stops, and then from here and picks up from another fence line.
Right.
Right, so that part's okay. Now, we need to walk the fence up here where the gaps were, or down here. So if we select this, I don't see any fence up to there. If I select, I wonder if that was supposed to be fence. Not sure. Again, I would go back and examine that other original. So if I look at that and then I zoom in down here and I see that is probably the rest of that fence. Yeah, so we're going to gather these up now. So what we're going to do is we're going to join nearest, just like we did before this, join nearest. Also on the polyline toolbar right up here, if I
Yeah.
can get that off. So now the way join nearest works is when you select something that, first of all, you could say join only identical layers. See that checkbox right there? Well, we don't want that. We want to be able to join from different layers. And you can have it ask you what the layer prompt needs to be by turning this one on. So that will say, if you want a different layer, I'm going to stop and ask you for it. But there's a shortcut way of doing that. If we leave that off, this command will assign the resulting, the end result to the last item that you pick. So if you do leave it off, I'm going to say, okay, and I now know that, say that, and then that. And then I look up here, I'm going to keep going over here, and I'm going to make sure that the last thing that I select, if I just make sure that it is also a fence line. Wow, that's unfortunate. That it's broken into these little pieces. I think it was that one. Yeah, boy, this is really threading the needle. Got to get in here tight. So I think we're okay. It looks like that fence line goes on right here as well. But we'll take a look at that in a minute, or you can decide whether or not it even matters. All right, so if we've done, let's see, we've gone up past this one now. The last, and there we'll select that. Can you see that you can tell what I'm doing is I'm looking to see what's highlighted and what's not.
Yeah.
So that's really all that I'm doing here. And sometimes it might not be completely evident. This one so far is working out okay. Now I'm up to that one. I'll stop when I get up there to the top. All right, so I'm going to stop with that one right now I normally would go on and grab this, but I want to make that the last one that I selected so that it all inherits those properties. Now, I'll do that one more time and I'll go up to this part of it. I'll get that one, make sure that goes all the way up. That one. Wow, I don't know if that's supposed to cross or not, but we'll see. And I choose this one back here now because it was the last one. So now there's that. Now, if we look at, and you'll need to compare this to that original.
Yeah.
Does that indeed go out to this corner and maybe goes on out to here. I think it might, based on that color. I think that is correct. I also noticed down here, this one. And I'm not going to join this one to this, because this comes down, goes down the corner, because that would, you know, it's a branch. It just needs to be, it just needs to match those properties. So if I match this, uh-oh, undo that. Did it the wrong way. I want to match, this is my source, this is my destination. There we go. Now, so I would go back with a fine tooth comb then on that original. Same thing looks like here. We had, you know, here's the one fence line here, comes down and hits this fence line, which is shown, you know, drawn off of there a little bit. It's, that's actually a line. I select those now. That's a line. I might want to consider making that a polyline. Now this one comes down like that. I think that's all okay. What is this? See that, I think, yeah, see that fence X line, even though it's on boundary plat?
Yeah.
So if I take that, let me select all of those. If I quick select multiple types whose line type equals that fence X line. And I zoom out here. So those are those lines. Those are off right now defined as fence lines. Looks like maybe, I don't know. All right, so let's put all of those, let's see, color by layer, layer fence, line type by layer. All right, let's do that. Now, one other quick thing, just to make it easier to distinguish. All right, so if we do, set my fence instead of white, let's make it, let's make it this nice bright green so we can see it here. It'll still plot black. All right, so that's that. What is this one on? That's electric. All right, let's color 120. That's fine. All right, so now we've got these green things. We've got our, what is this? Two, that's probably the floodplain or something. All right. So now if we isolate the layer fence. Now we see we've got some of these lines. So I'm going to turn those into polylines. Under edit, polyline utilities, entity to polylines. And there's no real reason other than I want them to be flat and I want to be able to join them up, because a lot of Carlson commands require polylines to begin with. And now I'll join. So there's that. And then this fence by layer by layer. Everything's by layer. So that's by layer, but it doesn't have enough length for the X to show up. We could fix that maybe if we can get just enough without making it too small.
Yeah, or we could just draw an X in it like the other guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, see, that makes it too small. So so here's, if you remember when we copied the line type from one drawing to the other, we had two in there, and I think one of those was at a different scale, was why we had that, if I remember correctly. So we had this one called fence B07508035. Then we had this one, see, that's 1.25. That means it's every 1.25 inches you're going to get the symbol. This one says every 3/4 inch. So if I select that, it did it at a different.
That's okay. Nobody's going to look at the fence lines and pick out that different looking X.
Yeah, so this is the definition of that is with a different text style. Let me see what, I'm pretty sure standard's using Arial, and this one probably was built with L100 or something. So anyway, and this one's just too little to show up, but it was. Now, if I restore these layers, now, if we look at that, that was the same color as a fence, but it was on this layer that's actually part of the property line. So maybe the property line was also a fence. You know, you'd have to look at that and see. And if it is, you might want to have, you know, copy the line from fence layer to property line layer. You may also want to join this property line to this piece down to this property line and turn it all into a single polyline. Okay. Again, I don't know, because I don't know what that original plat shows.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm going to have to do more than just with the original plat. I'm going to go out and actually look at it on the ground and see.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I mean, I'm saying it's not something we can necessarily decide right now.
Right.
All right, so now we're back to our original where we've isolated just that layer. So we can now come back to restore layers and turn everything else back on, and then you can use that to take a peek.
Okay, good.
Now, a couple things here, like this line and this line, are they supposed to meet up at the corner?
Probably, yeah.
Or well,
No,
maybe not.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
Okay, so you got that one where you could simply offset through, offset that guy through that endpoint, and then, you know, bring those together.
Right.
In which case you would do a join nearest We're going to fill it with radius 0 this time. And we're going to grab those things together, say this one, and then make sure the last one we get. Oh, the gap was, sorry. One more time, we'll have to pick the gap and give it enough distance to recognize that. There we go. So now there. Oh. It's already goes all the way around. So if I do that one, that's why you picked the last one. And I chose that fence last. So if I take this to this, there now. And you also see that has a corner, but I've got this space, and that's because this line type generation. So if I say no, then it's going to go through every corner. And I would suggest to do that to all of these. Here's another case where we want to probably I'm just going to grab that up like that. Now, select those. Take that around, it goes all the way around to there. All right, the gap wasn't quite big enough. And then I would set that line type generation to none, just so that it goes through all the corners correctly. Or now here's the trade-off, and this is why you have to consider whether it's, what it's worth. You see, every time it hits a vertex, it starts the pattern over. That's why this what should just be the same dash looks longer, because there's a vertex here. And if I get rid of that, so I got rid of, if you get rid of, say, this particular vertex, then it gives that chance. Now here's one where that's online. So I'll remove that vertex. Now we'll turn our line type generation back off. And now we're looking pretty decent, but like here's a spot in here. Now there's a vertex right here, but there's supposed to be, because there's a bend in it. So that's fine.
Right.
I'm not going to take that one out. So, little cosmetic things like that. And Mike, honestly, you see like down here, the same thing with these corners. I would maybe, looks like that's going to run up. And again, make sure you got the right. Yeah, so that you make sure that you have the right corner connection. You don't, make sure that you don't do a connect or average. Make sure in that case, we're going to fill it with the radius of 0. but you know, frankly, you know, is any of this worth that kind of effort for you? And you'll have to decide. You know, I'm such a slave to being, you know, this anal compulsive engineering type idiot that you know, I tend to want to go through and fix everything like that. And I think we've managed to get them all as I'm sitting here complaining about myself. So I think we're all in good shape, but play around with this line type generation so that you can make sure that you get the corners and make sure that it doesn't cause too many big, long, straight pieces, you know, or big, long, solid pieces.
Okay, where was that again? The line type generation?
Yeah, it's in the properties.
Yeah, okay, right, okay.
And the same thing, if you ever see like contour lines and if you see they twist and turn real tight and they look solid until they spread out a little bit, that's because the line type generation is turned on. So you want to select that one or similar or whatever and turn them to off so that, or I'm sorry, turn it from off to on so that it doesn't restart the pattern at every vertex. It lets it flow through those corners. Otherwise, every time it hits a vertex, it starts the pattern over again. So that's
Right.
true of any line type, whether it's a fence, a contour, what have you. Okay. Yeah, but I would go back and trace down these lines to make sure, you know, that like,
Well, some of that I know can't be right. Like that cannot be a fence line because it's across the road there.
well, it's not. It looks like it is because of the, or you mean this?
No, no, the other one, that can't, I mean, there's a road right there.
Yeah,
That,
well, that's actually not part of the fence line. See, it's on boundary plat, but the color
oh, it's electric.
yeah, and the color is similar. So let's change that fence. I don't know. Let's make our fences. Heck, let's just make them yellow. I didn't see a lot of yellow out there. So there you go. Yep. So, you know, chase that down, look at your original plat, make sure I haven't accidentally grabbed anything that's
Right.
wrong. Now, see, here's a case where there's a little piece of a fence line shown, and yet the boundary line, you know, that's the important part that we're doing. So we're indicating that the fence comes down here, and, you know, I don't know if it continues or not, or whether it's important to show that. But, you know, those are all your survey type questions that you as the surveyor need to figure out. But we do have, you know, here's another instance where, you know, that's a line. But now it's a polyline, but it goes, you know, a little bit past here. So, you know, I don't know what the fence does, and does it come up here, or is it missing in here, or does it matter? Again, you know, questions for you to figure out. Okay.
Right.
So, yeah, then that set that correctly. And now this overhead electric, that's another thing that you're going to want to see. So that electric line is the line type. You know, remember that line up here that we said was a fence line up here that was that question mark?
Yeah.
I wonder if that was supposed to be an electric line.
Probably.
All right, so set this back. Now, obviously that line type didn't work. We need to, again, do the electric, and it's on boundary plat. So let's go back to the same thing. And now typically be easement, electric utility overhead wires.
Yeah.
So maybe that one. So now let's look at, we got OH as overhead, electric. I don't know what you want to call it, just E maybe, or is OH,
Yeah.
OHE, or?
I tend just to call it E.
Okay. So let's see if we've got one in here from some previous definition. Here's one called electric line, but I don't think it's
Yeah, it doesn't have anything there.
fine, correct. Well, and again, keep in mind, these little appearance columns, these are just previews. They're not necessarily correct. This is just an area of extreme weakness on AutoCAD's part. And of course, IntelliCAD can't change it because AutoCAD's already done. But anyway, so let's take a look at an electric. So we got to look at the layer name. EUOH wires. So if we sit on that, and let's choose, all right, there's that electric line we chose. That's our current, and I'm just going to play with this till we get the right. All right, so there's electric line, but you see it's got the wrong character. It doesn't have an E, so we need to fix that. So a couple of ways. We can again look at Musi, or whatever it's called, see if we have one. Let me just draw a line, draw a polyline. And line type, let's see if we've got one.
There's one.
Yeah, but let me see. That's by entity. That's going to make draw those as individual things.
I know the electric.
Electric E right there.
Yeah.
But that'll draw a line and then a letter and then a line. I want it to be, and that's what this entity bit says. I want it to be up here as a CAD element, or
I see.
Let's see, because you'll see these are all with E's after them. If I say, see down here, this electric 2, C, so that's that was good. All right, so that's E1, so blah, blah, blah. We've got that one to use, all right? So back to our little copy bit. We've got Musi. We're going to open up styles. We're going to go to line types. We go to line types E1, 01, whatever. We drag that over to styles. We close. Well, we don't. We look at that layer called EOH wires, and we change that to that one. Say okay, be done. We go back to styles, and now this we're going to put on fixed wires by layer. By layer. Voila. And we'll take this, get rid of it. And so now here it looks like we might have jumped the gun on that previous one. So go back to that original Terra model thing and look at it and see if you can figure out if some of those need to be, if anything needs to be made into a fence or into electric that we've maybe drawn, we've gotten the wrong ones. Just make sure we get them selected correctly.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
So let's save that. What next might we have?
I think that's probably pretty good for today.
All right. Let me
About
look.
25 till 3 or so. That gives me, I can keep working there.
Yep. And I can go get my errands run. Now don't forget, now this stuff here, that looks like it's just a continuation of the floodplain.
Yeah, probably so.
So now see, we've got a slight, we got a line weight, we got a 0.1. So I think all we need to do is just join those. Put this back down to a nominal 1/10, directly connect, and I'll grab well, thought I was going to. Oh, there are big gaps in them. And again, just making sure you get the last one you pick will be the one that gets to control what it looks like. All right.
Right.
So, but again, verify those, Mike, and if case, and if the case is that I, that is something different, well, then, just, you can break those polylines. Say if this, we put too many things on the fence, part of that was electric. Well, you can break those at those vertex points.
Right.
Okay.
Okie doke.
All right, sir. Well, I will send you the link. I think we got everything. You got some things to work on now. Give it up if you want to do anything else, or just keep trying your hand at this. And I think the more you can dig out on this on your own, the more deeply you're going to learn it. I think you've discovered that. And so I would encourage that, but also, see, here's something that will, these things should, yeah, see, that's that zoom issue. But now you notice the X is smaller than the E.
Yeah.
And that may be okay. That's a fence barb. That's not really a letter X, so I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time futzing around with stuff like that. But like I said, or what I was starting to say is I would encourage you to, try to grab some of these things on your own, but by the same token, don't do it to the point where you're spinning your wheels and you're wasting your time. If you need help on something, or if you're got a deadline breathing down your neck, give me a yell. I'm more than happy to help you.
Okay.
But like I said, I think, as you know, you really learn this when you can get it in your fingers and
Yeah.
play around with that. Okay.
Okey-doke.
All right, sir. And yeah, don't forget to make those other 2 separate drawings for the consolidation and merger. And I think you're in good standing.
Okay, thank you.
I'll send you the link when everything processes.
Okay,
All right, sir. Take good
thank you.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.